Peloton's game-changing indoor cycling bike brings the energy of live studio classes to your house. Learn more about Peloton Bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. By the way, Manny Machado signed with the Padres, $300 million, 10 years. That's the last we'll talk about the Padres for a decade because they won't be able to afford even bat boys. We always bang on NBA guys when they change teams to win. Baseball guys go to get rich, and everybody's like, yeah, don't get it. I'd rather win. So certain franchises, there's probably a dozen of these if you took all the leagues. If you took NHL, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, there's probably a dozen in total of like what I would call low self-esteem sport franchises. They don't have any titles. Detroit Lions, Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns were big 70 years ago. And so these franchises, if you give them a glimpse of hope, you tell them you like them, they fall in love. They have low self-esteem. And they're also just willing to give you the franchise if you're great. The Cleveland Cavaliers, before LeBron James arrived, were, a blip. They don't matter, right? Lakers, Celtics, Bulls, Sixers, been a lot of franchises, Heat that matter. They didn't. And so LeBron shows up, and they were really the perfect organization for LeBron. The Cavs had no history. He was the biggest star in the state. You had a new NBA owner. They gave him the franchise. You're not going to do better than LeBron. And so LeBron, if you go look at LeBron's childhood, it's Psychology 101, LeBron has always pushed back a little bit on authority figures because LeBron had a pretty disrupted, chaotic young childhood. And when you do, you tend to seek control because you didn't have it as a kid. And that's just Psychology 101. That's why people go to therapy, based on childhood experiences. So LeBron wants control. And LeBron has pushed back on authority figures. David Blatt, Pat Riley, Mickey Arison, Eric Spoelstra, the Lakers now. So LeBron is a control seeker. And that's okay. That's very human, considering his life. And that was a perfect relationship to be in with Cleveland. He would have never left Cleveland the first time if they could get him any players. He would have never left Cleveland the second time if they made a deal to get him more players and Kyrie didn't leave. What's interesting, though, is Miami and the Lakers are not ideal fits for him. The Miami Heat have Pat Riley. They're the one Eastern Seaboard, Eastern team that gets free agents. They've had success. They've won titles. They feel good about themselves. They're never desperate. So as LeBron, the alpha, is seeking control and power, Miami wasn't willing to give him all of it, and he didn't like it. They won 2 titles in 4 years, and he didn't like it. He wanted more power. That's who LeBron is. Similarly, the Lakers are not an ideal fit. They're not giving him the franchise. This is not a low self-esteem franchise. They've got titles. There's lots of stars in Los Angeles, just like there are lots of big stars in Miami. D. Wade's a star. Dan Marino's a star. Real estate stars. Celebrity stars. Every weekend there's a party with stars. It's the same in Los Angeles. What's interesting about LeBron, it's very hard for two alphas to coexist. The perfect place for LeBron has always been Cleveland, but they butchered it both times. The first time they couldn't get him one other all-star. The second time he had an all-star and Kyrie left, and Kevin Love was aging. He wouldn't have left Cleveland. Cleveland's perfect for him. What LeBron has always been seeking, the Cavaliers were willing to furnish. Miami was briefly, but then pulled back and said, hey, we're not giving you everything. LeBron didn't like it. And then the Lakers now, why do you keep hearing stories from reputable sources like Jackie McMullen and Woj? There's tension in the building. There's tension because you have an alpha seeking power and control and an alpha called the Lakers not willing to give it all up. So what's interesting about this situation to me with LeBron, who knows how it turns out? I've always felt he'd win a title in Los Angeles if he could cobble together one more star, possibly a third. And so far it's been okay. If LeBron didn't get hurt, they'd probably be in 5th place in the West, not 3 games out of the final playoff spot in the West. But it is interesting is that I don't think Miami was ever the perfect spot. I thought initially it was, but the more I look at it, it's not. And I don't think, frankly, Los Angeles is the perfect spot. The perfect relationship was the girl he fell in love with in high school. But at some point, twice, Cleveland, they grew apart. Once because Cleveland couldn't get it done for him, and once because LeBron and Kyrie didn't get along. By the way, as far as the Western Conference standings go today, the Lakers are 3 games out of the final playoff spot. That means if they made the playoffs, which Las Vegas today says they won't, 25 games left, 17 against playoff teams. Of the 8 games with non-playoff teams, 6 are on the road. If they got in, if they'd face the Warriors, possibly the Nuggets or the Thunder. If they got in and moved up to a 6 or a 5 seed, I absolutely think they could beat a Blazers, they could beat a Jazz or a Spurs, certainly a Clippers. I don't think they're getting there. I think they get in final spot and face the Warriors, and it's just quick work. It's interesting, though, to me. Good stuff today. C.J. Anderson of the Rams, who's interesting dude, met him in the hallway before our show today, is joining us. Catino Mobley stops by, and Crazy Rob Parker. Also, Luke Walton was trapped by TMZ and talked about his relationship with LeBron James. There's also a rumor here the Lakers, quote, privately concerned with LeBron James' mobility. I'm going to ask you a question next, and it's not a hot take. I think it's the opposite of a hot take, and I'm going to let you provide the hot take. I'll try to throw a wet blanket on what could be a hot take. Is hour 2 coming up? We continue live in Los Angeles. It's The Hurt.